Okay, so I'm currently engaged in, I don't know if you call it a debate, we'll call it a discussion with a couple of gentlemen. Um, and I might have to make more than one video. We'll see how this goes. I'll just start talking about it. And what I want to, the reason why I want to make a video or videos about it is that, first of all, it's in response to these two gentlemen, but also there's a couple of things that I want to talk to a wider audience about because there's a couple of things that need to be, I think, demonstrated. First of all, on the issue of what morality and ethics are, what emotions are, which I've made videos in the past about. I want to also talk about what is rationality and how to spot certain types of arguments, how to spot trolling, that kind of thing. So, anyway, let me see if I scroll to the right location of this. I might have to make part two later on in the day. So, my second video, if I do make one, might be a bit dark, but because I do have somewhere I have to go here in a few minutes. But let me see what I can do here. So anyway, what happened is I'm getting into a discussion with somebody, obviously a disagreement over who rules the world, what morality is, what is degeneracy specifically. What I always like to do is I like to ask questions like, tell me what you think degeneracy is, or what is, like, if you were to boil it down to the essence, what is it? If you can boil a set of concepts down to one concept, what would it be? And this is known as, or like a version of, the Socratic method. So you question somebody and you kind of break something down until you get to the essence of something. And this way it clarifies the point for both parties involved. So then that person's clear, and then you can also be clear as well. So that's how the discussion started, was what exactly is morality? So, like I said, a tactic in a debate with somebody, and it depends on what kind of debate you're having. Obviously, political debate is something totally different. Uh, you're appealing to a voter base. You're not, appealing to people's intellect, unfortunately. So anyway, that's a method, and that's a method I like to use because it eliminates the BS, in someone's argument or whatever they're saying. So that's how it got started. And the person answered with that Ayn Rand is a source of degeneracy, and then later on he said that Judaism was a source of degeneracy, which to say Ayn Rand is the source of degeneracy. Ayn Rand doesn't have a time machine. Okay, she didn't start the degeneracy, assuming that degeneracy comes from Ayn Rand. She didn't start that, during the collapse of the Roman Republic, for example. So, right there, like, that's just retarded. Obviously, the guy is trolling when he said that. That comment was designed to, I guess, push my buttons, if you will. And that's another thing, too. When you're dealing with somebody who is, is a troll, that does things like that, don't ever take the person seriously. Um, I only take it as seriously because there are some issues that do legitimately need to be explained and talked to, with other people. And then there's also an audience. Like I said, there's more than one person that I'm discussing this with. So there's that relation there where, you're trying to set it straight because you're holding other people accountable. You don't want someone to just go off and act irrationally, act on, based on how they feel, because that causes destruction to themselves, to yourself, and others. So, okay. So eventually he says that Judaism is the source of degeneracy. And that's a whole nother topic I'm not going to get into. He thinks that, well, it's a common belief. A lot of people believe that, there's a sort of a loose Jewish conspiracy that that the people who run the world are Jewish, And I mean, there's certainly some evidence of this. I don't, completely buy into that. I think there's a lot of nuances and things that need to be discussed about that. And by and large, to this discussion, the whole topic is irrelevant. I'm not going to go into that. I mean, you do have the Rothschilds, that run the central banks, George Soros. Arguably, they're not really Jewish. I mean, they're basically cult members. But some people will say that Judaism does have a cult origin in Mesopotamia. And I mean, there's a whole discussion on that, which I'm not going to get into. That's not the topic of this video. What he was saying is that Ayn Rand, and he later on said this, that Ayn Rand advanced Jewish goals and Jewish agenda, the Jewish world domination agenda, as he puts it. That's not what I would say, but that's what he says. I mean, that's absolutely absurd. Ayn Rand is a philosopher. She had something called, she started a philosophy with some help of others called objectivism, and it holds that in metaphysics, which means like physical reality, that there's only one reality, there's not some supernatural dimension, and in epistemology, which is the philosophy of how mankind gains knowledge, how man acquires knowledge, is based on rationality. Rationality is the guide to action and the means of identifying reality. So by default, long story short, by default, that is atheism, which philosophically is opposed to any kind of religion or cult, regardless if you're, practicing the occultic beliefs of the Rothschilds or the Jewish religion. It doesn't matter. To say that Ayn Rand advanced, Judaism, however you define it, is prima facie absurd. It's absolutely ridiculous, and of course, I again questioned him on this, and he responded with ad hominems, which means that he is evading. He doesn't have specifics. He cannot give you specifics to why this is. And when you see somebody do this, essentially you've basically won the intellectual part of the argument. That's because the person is defaulting when they're using these ad hominems. They don't have an argument. They basically don't know what they're talking about. And then at that point, you really don't take the person seriously at all. Ad hominems obviously is a fallacy because you're redirecting the argument from the subject to the person. You're attacking the person, and that's why whether it's an intellectual debate or in a court case. If you're in a court case and one of the lawyers attacks the persona of the other lawyer without evidence, or the defendant or whoever without evidence to back that up, you can't call somebody a murderer unless you can say X, Y, Z. Here's the evidence. The reason for that is that it taints the minds of the jurors. You can't, excuse me, you don't get to the facts by attacking, the personal character unless you have evidence, unless you can prove to say, yes, this person is a knucklehead because of X, Y, Z. I'm not just saying he's a knucklehead. He's a knucklehead because, these set of reasons. So, of course, he doesn't give these reasons. He attacks me personally, doesn't give any reasons for it. And again, it's not to be taken seriously, and it's a demonstration of incompetency. So I can see my video is already 9 minutes long right now. I'll make another one in a little bit.